Lemonada.
The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The human postponer. They were the master of one phrase. I'll circle back on that. But 3 months later, you were the one doing all their work and wondering how big that circle is. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can take the hiring load off your plate by automating the hiring busy work from the initial job post to scheduling interviews. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
Late night bites with friends? Already hard to beat. That first too hot bite of fries you couldn't wait for, followed by ice cold Pepsi. Now that hits different. Suddenly, the energy kicks back in, the night goes longer, and the laughs don't stop. Because Pepsi brings out more flavor, more fun, and more of the moment. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a Pepsi Zero Sugar today.
Hello, we're here for More Happier, a podcast where we get happier. Join us for some weekend listening. It's observations and reflections with a looser vibe. Hey, Elizabeth.
Hey, Gretch.
Today, we're taking a look back at one of our favorite ideas that we return to again and again on the podcast. It is the series, Treat Yourself Like a Blank. It started years ago with our Try This at Home suggestion to treat yourself like a toddler, which is something that has been very important to me to learn about myself. I really need to treat myself like a toddler.
Yes, you cannot get too hungry or too sleepy.
Yeah.
And over the years, we've talked about all kinds of variations, including treat yourself like a dog, a teenager, a professor, and most recently, a grandchild.
Yeah. And the reason that this is effective for making our lives happier is that research shows that when we think about ourselves from a greater distance, we gain perspective. And these are a way to reframe our relationship with ourselves. They give us a different way to think about ourselves and care for ourselves.
For example, like I said, if a toddler is tired, you make sure the toddler gets a nap. If a dog needs exercise, you take the dog for a walk. But when it comes to ourselves, we can be surprisingly quick to ignore what we need.
Yeah. And, we often talk about how different metaphors resonate with different people, or, a subtle change in language and vocabulary can make a big difference on how much an idea resonates with you or how sticky it is for you. And so it's good to have a bunch of these ideas because one person might respond to the idea of treating themselves like a toddler, like me. Another person finds that treating themselves like a professor is more useful. And so today we're revisiting some of our favorites, beginning with the original one, to treat yourself like a toddler.
And if you want to hear the complete original episodes these clips come from, we have a link to them all in the show description.
Yeah, as always. So, okay, let's take a listen back. This week, our Try This at Home tip is to treat yourself like a toddler. We've all been around toddlers, and you pay a lot of attention to, is that toddler hungry or thirsty or too hot or too cold or in uncomfortable clothing or needs more time to make a transition? And the fact is, we know that toddlers need this stuff, but we need this stuff too. And I realized that I need to treat myself like a toddler and make sure that I'm not too hungry and I'm not too cold and I have enough time between transitions, because I get cranky and irritable and tantrum prone just like your average 3-year-old.
Yeah, I relate to this one, Gretch, because as you know, I'm type 1 diabetic.
Right.
Which means if I don't watch my blood sugar and make sure that I eat something, every so often, I could crash and be, sweating and shaking and all of that business. So it's like I have to always know where am I in terms of my food scale.
Right.
And the last thing I want to happen is go into some, meeting with a network executive and suddenly crash and then have to dig in my purse for a Zone bar,
right,
in the middle of a meeting.
Right. Pardon me while I just have a little snack while we're talking.
Exactly. So I'm really aware of the importance of treating myself like a toddler in that way. And also, I think our whole family is into the cold thing. We don't do well cold.
Right.
People make fun of me because it's, January in LA, it's 75 degrees, but I go nowhere without, a down jacket and a wool hat because I'm like, you never know when the weather's going to turn.
Or you're in an over air conditioned movie theater or in a restaurant that's, freezing cold or something. And here's this other thing about treat yourself like a toddler that's interesting to me is I've noticed that sometimes when you think of yourself in the third person, it's very helpful. Like you get these weird insights into how to self-manage if you think about yourself as if you were managing someone else. And I was inspired to notice this because I read about something that I think it was something that Anne Lamott said. And if I could be totally making this up, but as I recall, Anne Lamott said something like, to take care of herself, she says things like, I'm sorry, Anne Lamott can't accept your invitation to speak because she's finishing a book, and so she needs to keep her schedule clear. Wow. And I thought, well, that's so brilliant because somehow, like, if you're thinking, well, should I do it? It seems like all very cloudy and everything. But then if you say to yourself, well, should Anne Lamott do it? It's like, no, Anne Lamott's got to finish her book. She can't accept that speaking engagement. And the same thing when I'm like, if somebody, like, oh, can you come over for our house for a dinner party or, stay or whatever? And I'm just like, Gretchen, she really needs to eat early. She can't wait till 9 o'clock to eat dinner. So basically, I eat dinner before I go over to somebody's house because I know that I'm not going to be able to make it. I get hangry, hungry and angry. Or like, Gretchen can't stay up past her bedtime, 3 nights in a row. And it's somehow like treating yourself like a toddler like that. You just have more self-compassion.
Yeah, well, even I can think, like, for instance, sometimes I'm sure you've had this happen. There's this little piece on your bra strap that's digging into your back.
Yes.
And every time that happens, I think, oh, I'll get used to this. It won't bother me throughout the day. I'll be fine. And then, every single time, the whole day is torture.
Consumed.
And if I think about, but if Jack had a little thing digging into his back, we would never send him off with that.
Right.
Adam goes painstakingly through every single one of Jack's shirts and everything else, taking out the tag. So I'm like, why don't I do that for myself?
Right.
Know that that's going to be bothersome. It's just, you almost feel like you should be above all these little insignificant things that are uncomfortable.
Right.
But yet we all feel those discomforts, and it's very distracting.
Yeah. No, and so you're like, I'm going to take this bra out of the bra circulation because it's just too uncomfortable. And so, just like you would do for a kid. And I had this experience fairly recently because I was editing on my book Better Than Before, and it was really, really stressful because it was really hard. And I was sort of in that terrible thing of like, oh my gosh, this thing is just a monster that I can't control. And am I going to wrestle this into any kind of shape? And I was like, and I had this moment where I said, wow, Gretchen is really feeling under a lot of pressure with her work. So what can she do to make herself feel better? And I was like, you know what Gretchen needs? Gretchen needs to reread the entire Harry Potter series from beginning to end. Starting now. So every available free minute that I had, I was like, I'm just reading Harry Potter now. And it was very comforting. And I felt a lot better because I had treated myself like a very needy toddler.
Good for you.
Let us know if you try this at home and whether treating yourself like a toddler makes you happier.
Up next, 2 ways to treat yourself that might encourage you to get outside, spend time with friends, and have a little more fun. But first, this break. This episode of Happier with Gretchen Rubin is brought to you by Alloy Health. Let's be honest, aging can come with some unwelcome changes. Sleep disruptions, hot flashes, brain fog, weight gain, decreased libido can hit us hard. The good news is menopause is inevitable, but it's also treatable. That's why I was so interested in Alloy. They connect you with a menopause specialized doctor who creates a personalized treatment plan, and everything happens online with treatments delivered right to your door. It takes so much of the guesswork and hassle out of getting started.
And they make the process so simple. You complete an intake, get matched with your doctor, and you can message them anytime. Join the 95% of women who tried Alloy and saw relief in the first 2 weeks. Head to myalloy.com and use the code HAPPIER and tell them all about your symptoms. And you'll get a fully customized treatment plan and unlimited messaging with your doctor. Plus, you'll get $20 off your first order today. Head to myalloy.com and use code HAPPIER to get $20 off your first order. I think a lot of us are wondering what AI is going to mean for the future of work. What gives me hope is the idea that AI can help people work together instead of replacing the teamwork that makes great ideas possible. That's one of the reasons I like using Notion. It keeps our team working from the same shared context instead of everyone hunting through different apps and emails.
Notion is the AI workspace where your team's knowledge, projects, and agents all come together in one place. Because everything lives together, AI has the context it needs to answer questions instantly, automate busy work, and keep work moving. It's AI designed to strengthen teamwork, not replace it. Teams using Notion move faster, cut friction and costs by consolidating tools, and stay aligned. Learn more about how Notion can support your business at notion.com/happy. That's all lowercase letters, notion.com/happy to try Notion today. And when you use our link, you're supporting our show.
I'm definitely someone who prefers shopping from home whenever I can. It's so much easier to see what actually works in your own space than to guess under showroom lighting. That's one of the reasons I love 3-day blinds. They bring the showroom to you instead.
There's a better way to buy blinds, shades, shutters, and drapery, and it's called 3-day blinds. When Jack needed to have his room darker at night so he could sleep better, Gretchen, we called 3-day blinds, and they did a perfect job. Whether you're looking for blackout shades, motorized blinds that work with Alexa, or something that simply ties a room together, they have thousands of styles to fit every budget.
Right now, get quality window treatments that fit your budget with 3-day blinds. Head to 3dayblinds.com/happier for their buy one, get one 50% off deal on custom blinds, shades, and drapery. For a free, no charge, no obligation consultation, just head to 3dayblinds.com/happier. One last time, that's buy one, get one 50% off when you head to the number 3, DAY, blinds.com/happier. This week, Elizabeth, our try this at home tip is to treat yourself like a dog.
I love this. And it comes from Eliza, your daughter, my niece.
Yes. So at college, they're much better these days at having support for students, and they have advisors, and they get together, and they really try to help them take good care of themselves. And one of the things that her advisor said was, you should treat yourself like a dog. Meaning, would you treat a dog the way you treat yourself? You want to feel like I do treat myself as well as I would treat any dog that I was taking care of.
Yeah, like with a dog, you make sure that the dog has time outside and exercise and fresh water and also healthy food, not just treats, and fresh air and lots of sleep.
Yeah, and if your dog needs attention, you take him to the vet right away. You take your dog to the groomer. You make sure that your dog has plenty of time to socialize with other animals. Like our dog Barnaby is super social. He really needs to have time with other dogs. If your dog is misbehaving, you get them help so they can behave themselves better.
And of course, you give your dog affection.
Yeah.
So you need affection as well.
Right. They need to have fun. They need to have time to play. They need somebody to play with them. And I think it's very helpful to think about ourselves in this way, because it turns out that the basics that dogs need are the basics that we humans need. We need all the things that they need.
Yeah, Gretchen, it reminds me of our segment, Treat Yourself Like a Toddler. Way back in episode 7, we talked about treating yourself a toddler, and this is like shades of that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it's slightly different in my mind, because when I think of treating myself like a toddler, I think of myself as like kind of the ticking time bomb, because if you're taking care of a toddler, you're like, if they don't get their sleep, this is going to be a terrible situation. If they're too hot, they're too cold, if they're hungry, like you feel like you've got to, I do feel like that it's going to go drastically wrong if you don't pay attention to these details. But with a dog, it's almost kind of the opposite. Like they're helpless. They only get what you give them. And so you have to have a responsibility because they're in your care. They're utterly in your care. And they really can't. The way that they would act up or ask for help is even more limited than a toddler could do. They don't have any recourse. And so you have to be considerate of them and forward thinking of their needs in an even more intense way.
Yeah, you really need to be kind to yourself the way that you want to be kind to your dog.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder also if this kind of framework might be of special help to an obliger. So Elizabeth, you can speak to this as an obliger. Because sometimes with obligers, it's like they can get the outer accountability they need for inner expectations by thinking of themselves in the third person. Like Gretchen right now doesn't want to exercise, but future Gretchen will be really disappointed if now Gretchen doesn't do it. Or thinking of yourself in the third person and treating yourself like a dog is in a way thinking of yourself like in the third person.
Yeah, I do think it's helpful for obligers to think of ourselves in the third person because it can create outer accountability. I also think just the fact that an advisor was saying this, in this particular case with Eliza, it's like a person of authority saying, I'm telling you, you have to treat yourself as well as you treat your dog, is helpful because then you have a measure of like, okay, did I go outside today or was I just writing my paper all day?
Right.
Okay, I need to go outside. I need to eat a full, meal. All of those things. So I do think it could be really helpful.
And I thought this was a great way to communicate that, especially to someone like Eliza, because Eliza is such a dog lover. I mean, she loves dogs. She loves Barnaby. And her standard of care for Barnaby is so high that I think you're right. It kind of creates a measurement of, well, what's reasonable? Well, what would you consider to be reasonable for Barnaby? Well, surely you should give yourself that same. And it's almost like in thinking of your yourself as the third person, it's almost like your body is like the earthly clay part of yourself, but in a way it is subject to your mind, to your whims, to your direction. And so you almost have to think about that kind of earthly body that's moving around like your dog that's following you around on a leash because it's your mind that has to decide what it gets. And so it is that sort of imaginative form of outer accountability.
Yeah. The other thing is, if you think about treating a dog well, then the dog thrives.
Yes.
If you don't treat a dog well, the dog does not thrive.
Right.
So what does that tell you? If you don't give yourself like these basic things that you would give your dog, it's going to go downhill.
Right. Your coat is going to be dull.
Exactly.
Your nose is not going to be the right temperature. You're going to chew up the furniture.
Yes.
You're going to dig into the trash.
Yes.
Well, let us know if you do try this at home and how treating yourself like a dog works for you. Let us know on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Drop us an email at podcast@GretchenRubin.com. Or as always, you can go to the show notes for this episode. This is episode 243. So go to happiercast.com/243 for everything related to this episode.
Yeah. And Gretchen, for those of us who don't have dogs, I think we should think of imaginary dogs that we're treating ourselves
Or
as.
your childhood dog. Treat yourself like Paddywhack.
Yes.
You took good care of Paddywhack.
Yes.
Yeah. Our schnauzer growing up. The try this at home tip this week is to act like a teenager.
And you're talking about the good parts, Gretch, not the part where your emotions are up and down and you're slamming doors and overly hormonal.
Right. Well, and we've talked about sort of adjacent try this at homes before. So we've had treat yourself like a toddler, which is what I need to do. I need my sleep. I can't get too hungry. I can't get too cold or too hot. Then there's treat yourself like a puppy, which is you wouldn't deprive your puppy of healthy food. You wouldn't make your puppy work all day long without time for playtime and leisure. You wouldn't drag your puppy around and not take good care of your puppy. So treat yourself like a toddler, treat yourself like a puppy, and now act like a teenager. The good parts of a teenager.
Yes. So what do teenagers do that's good? I love this because I feel like people are always giving teenagers such a hard time. So it's nice to focus on all the good parts about teenagers.
Yes, and they do a lot of things that are really happiness boosting.
Yeah.
One thing that teenagers do is they listen to music. I think for a lot of people, when I was writing Life in 5 Senses, I realized for so many people, music is a really big part of their life, much more than it was for me as somebody who neglects my sense of hearing. But many, many adults would say, like, I used to play regularly. I used to be in a band. I was in chorus in high school. In college, I would go to concerts. It's something that often, for whatever reason, our circumstances lead us to spend more time playing music, listening to music, going to concerts. And if this is something that makes you happy, it's a great thing to bring into your adult life.
Yes. And then teenagers also talk to their friends often for hours on a daily basis.
Yeah. And so if you're feeling detached from your friends, maybe you just need to pick up the phone more or engage more. Here's something funny. And again, this is from Life in 5 Senses. I was talking to a therapist, and she was saying how people, and she often treats teenagers, that they will self-soothe with potions and lotions and applying makeup and taking makeup off, or putting on nail polish and taking it off, or doing their hair in a million different ways. And I think as an adult, you often see that as tied to vanity or consumerism in a bad way. But she was pointing out that it can be very soothing, because it's like, I'm a hair twister and I do that to calm down. Or like the way people rub their arms or wring their hands as a way to self-soothe. So that's something that teenagers do that is beneficial, that we could tap into. Or just thinking of these things as being a creative outlet. It is fun to paint your nails a different color, and it's a little bit of creativity in everyday life. And so maybe that's something that if you did it as a teenager and you really enjoyed it, that might be something that you would enjoy acting like today.
Yeah, I should try that, Gretch, because you remember when I was a teenager, I spent hours painting my nails. I was always painting my nails.
Elizabeth has the fastest growing, strongest, most beautiful nails. It is true. And it is also true that you spent hours doing that. I kind of forgot about that.
And now I just keep my nails basically short and plain because I don't want to deal with it. But maybe I should get into doing my nails.
But maybe this is the kind of thing with the strike, that it would be some new thing that would soothe you and give you a little bit of fun and creativity, a little bit of whimsy, and tap into that teenage activity.
And then they also do things like play pickup basketball, throw the ball for their dog, play different games.
Puzzles. Yeah.
So all those are things we could do.
Yeah. When I think about what I did as a teenager that I could do today that would be fun is, first of all, as a teenager, I would do spontaneous things with friends. It would be school and it'd be like, oh, let's go look for a shirt at Plaza. Or, we would do something spontaneously. Now, I do not love spontaneity as an upholder, but even I sometimes think it's fun to like do something on the fly. Or this is something that I used to do that I loved, and I really could do it now, which is to do errands with friends. I did that in high school. It'd be like, oh, my mom is saying I have to go do XYZ. Why don't you just come along with me? And so I'd be like, yeah, Saturday afternoon, I'll come with you. It would turn it into this whole fun thing. They do some errands, I do some errands. That's definitely something that I could do with a friend now.
Yeah, another thing, speaking of that, is that we used to just go hang out at each other's houses in a very mellow, downtime kind of way.
Yeah.
Just hanging in someone's bedroom for 6 hours, again, listening to music, talking, reading magazines, calling other friends. Maybe that's part of why you like cleaning out people's closets. It is that downtime in somebody's personal space.
Well, exactly. And you're not being entertained. I think we're so hung up on the idea of entertaining. And as an adult, when somebody comes over, you're entertaining them. As a kid, I mean, maybe because your parents have to have the responsibility of like, oh, let's offer them a healthy snack. You're just hanging out.
Yeah.
But one thing that my daughters do with their friends, and this is something also that could be fun, they just watch silly TV, some silly reality show, something that's not TV where you have to like watch every move and everything, but it's just some competition show. And it's something to do. You laugh about it. You're talking about it. You're just talking about anything. Again, it's just hanging out. Not doing much. But I think you're right about the cleaning the closets. I hadn't thought about it. It's a way to just hang out with a friend for a couple of hours.
Yeah, and it's a closeness that, again, you don't get at a restaurant.
Yeah.
It's just not the same thing.
It's not the same. Yeah, being in someone's bedroom, hanging out like that, it's different. We never go to friends' bedrooms now. It's too private.
Never. Yeah, exactly. Now, Gretchen, another thing, though, that I did a lot as a teenager, which I want to get back into, and I think you are getting back into, which is spending time thinking about your outfit.
Yes. Planning an outfit.
You're definitely doing that. And I'm trying to make myself think about my outfit rather than literally just put on leggings and a black t-shirt.
Yeah. Well, and finding it fun, and again, like a creative expression. And it does change your feeling about what you're doing if you put together a little bit of an outfit.
The other night, Adam and I were going to dinner, and normally I would just say, I can wear what I'm wearing, right? Which is, again, like leggings and a t-shirt. And instead I went and I spent 10 minutes, it wasn't even a long time, figuring out an outfit. And I wore white pants and a white shirt and cute sandals and that jewelry.
You look great. You sent me a photo. I
sent a photo. It totally changed the night from just going to dinner into more of a feeling like we were on a date because I was wearing an outfit. So it was just really really nice. And then when I changed, he changed. So he also looked nicer.
But it elevated it a little bit.
Yes, absolutely elevated it.
Right. If you would go out to the movies with friends, you'd put on an outfit.
Yes.
Yeah. These are very specific things, and we love the specific and the practical. But I guess the more abstract thing is to try to give yourself a break from adult worries. Teenagers are sort of beset with their own worries, and that's a challenging time of life. I think most people would agree. But there's a certain kind of thing that they don't worry about. They're not worrying about adult worries for the most part. Can you tap into these activities as a way to try to recapture a certain kind of carefreeness that would be a good respite from the usual preoccupations of adult life?
Yes.
So let us know if you do try this at home and how acting like a teenager works for you. And what are you doing to act like a teenager? How are you recapturing that teen spirit?
Coming up, a way to treat yourself that might inspire you to hold office hours, give yourself a grant, or even take a sabbatical. But first, this break.
Between diets, workouts, and endless advice, it's hard to know what actually works for weight loss and what's worth your time. That's why Hers offers access to an affordable range of FDA-approved GLP-1 medications that now includes the Wegovy pill and the Wegovy pen. It helps you regulate your appetite, eat less, and keep weight off. Plus, Wegovy is the first ever GLP-1 for weight loss, so there are no needles needed.
Everything is 100% online through Hers. You'll connect with a licensed provider who will determine if treatment is right for you. Ready to reach your goals? Visit forhers.com/happier to get personalized, affordable care that gets you. That's FORHERS.com/happier. Forhers.com/happier. Weight loss by Hers is not available in all 50 states. Wegovy is a registered trademark of Novo Nordisk AS. To get started and learn more, including important safety information, Wegovy clinical study information, and restrictions, visit forhers.com.
I always feel like August is a good time to reset before the fall season, which is so busy. I don't necessarily want a whole new wardrobe. I just want a few pieces that make getting dressed easier. That is why I have become such a fan of Quince. Their clothes are beautifully made, timeless, and they feel like the kind of pieces you reach for again and again.
Quince works directly with ethical factories and cuts out the middlemen, so everything is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Their premium stretch denim starts at just $50, and they also have beautiful bedding, all kinds of stuff for your home and travel. Gretchen, I got Jack a set of luggage from Quince, and he loves it. Upgrade your everyday. Go to quince.com/Gretchen for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada and the UK too. That's QUINCE.com/Gretchen for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Gretchen.
I've been trying to say yes more to little adventures. Nothing huge, just getting out of the routine and going somewhere different for the day. And it really makes you appreciate having a car that feels solid and comfortable, where you're not thinking about the drive, you're just focused on where you're going. That's what stood out to me about the Defender. It has that rugged design, but it also feels really thoughtful inside. And I like that there's a full lineup, from the 2-door 90 to the 110 and the 130 with seating for up to 8. So it really fits different kinds of plans.
And it's built with those durable, purposeful materials so you can actually use it without worrying about every little thing. It also has features that make driving feel easier, like ClearSight technology and the Pivot Pro system, so you can keep track of where you're going and everything you want to listen to along the way. Plus, with up to 89 cubic feet of cargo space and available 3 rows, it gives you a lot of flexibility depending on what you're bringing with you. Explore the full Defender lineup at LandRoverUSA.com.
And our try this at home tip this week is to treat yourself like a professor. Maybe it's more like consider yourself as a professor, but treat yourself like a professor.
And Gretchen, we have a series of these. Treat yourself like a toddler, treat yourself like a puppy, treat yourself like a teenager. So now a professor.
Yes. And these are valuable strategies because research shows that often when we think of ourselves in the third person, we get a different perspective. And it is well established that we are much better at dealing with other people's lives and problems than our own. You can give great advice, extremely useful and insightful advice to someone else. But when it comes to thinking and acting on that advice for ourselves, it can be more of a challenge. So that when we find ways to distance ourselves from our own situation, we're often much better at making good decisions, getting insights into what changes might be helpful. And in my observation, this process sometimes works even better when we identify ourselves in the context of someone else, like a toddler. How would you treat a toddler? How would you treat a puppy? What would you expect a professor to be able to do? What would your life be like as a professor? And so it's just a new way to give a different framework to our behavior and our decisions.
So what are ways that we might treat ourselves like a professor?
Right. Neither one of us has ever been a professor. I've guest taught classes, but neither one of us has been a professor, but we have ideas about what that would be.
Yes, we do. We've had professors.
We've had professors.
So one thing you could do, Gretch, I was thinking is give yourself office hours. This comes up for me, and I think for you as well. If you're someone that people often ask for advice, career advice or informational interviews, career favors, for me, reading a script, going to coffee, that kind of thing.
Right.
I've decided what I can do is pick a time when I'm available for that. So, and I think as listeners suggested this some time ago. So you can say, these are my office hours. So if someone contacts you, I do that from 11 to 1 on Tuesdays.
Right.
And slot them into that time, because what I find is one of the sort of most difficult parts of giving someone advice is just scheduling it.
Yes.
Because they're always like, well, whenever works for you. And then, it just is such a hassle.
Yes.
But if you say, here's a time that I know works for me, and then if you've already filled that slot this week, you give them the next week.
Right.
Or the next month, or however often you have it set for yourself. So that's my office hours.
I think that's great. It keeps it manageable. There's no decision fatigue. It's like if the slots are full, then you're not going to be doing it 6 hours in 1 week. So it solves a lot of problems. So that's great. Office hours. Okay. So my friend is like a student and had accountability issues. And I said, well, one thing you might do is go work in a coffee shop. Don't work in your apartment. Go work. Because I find that if you're just there with your laptop and you're like, okay, I'm here for 2 hours, there's nothing else to do, especially if you don't let yourself go on the internet or do your emails. And so you work just because out of sheer boredom. You're like, I'm here. What am I going to do? So it's a good way to get yourself to work regularly if you're having trouble. And so he decided to give himself a grant. He said, oh, you know what? I gave myself a $500 grant for coffee and pastries. So I can go work in a coffee shop. I buy myself a lovely coffee. I buy myself a pastry, and then they'll let me sit in this coffee shop for a reasonable amount of time. And that's how I'm made the significant progress. And I thought this was so great that conceiving it as a grant, because it's like, this is money that I am spending in order to reach my aims for myself. It's not, I thought it was just a very skillful way to make it acknowledge that this is an investment in myself. It's something that if it works is going to be really worth it. And so, and he could afford that. So I thought that was very clever.
Or, you could give yourself a $50 grant.
Oh, absolutely.
Whatever works in your life.
Right.
Another thing you can do is teach what you want to learn or do.
Yeah, I have many friends who are professors who will decide to teach a class, like a specific seminar or something, because there's something that they want to learn. And they're like, okay, I'm going to have to learn this if I'm going to have to teach it. I think there's even a proverb that the best way to learn is to teach. This is an accountability strategy that I've heard about from obligers. I remember hearing from an obliger who wanted to learn how to do genealogical research. So he signed up to give a class at his local library on it because he's like, well, I'm going to have to figure out how to do it because I'm going to teach it. My husband, Jamie, is teaching a law school seminar, and there's all this reading that he's always been really wanting to do. And I was like, yeah, I got to do this reading because it'll give me all this greater context, because he's talking about things that he knows well. But of course, there's always more background and legal history. And so because he's teaching it, he's learning it, and that's been great for him.
Yeah, I know when I try to teach people Mahjong, it helps me remember it better.
Yes. It's just a great strategy generally. And then I have a friend, a writer, who had been working at like a very intense pace and needed to give herself a break. And I saw her and she's like, oh yeah, I gave myself a sabbatical, a reading sabbatical. And she's like, yeah, all I'm doing is reading. I thought that was, wow, that sounds delightful. So it was like, I think it was like a month-long sabbatical. And then I saw her a while later and I was like, oh, how was your sabbatical? And she goes, oh, you know what? I got an extension.
Oh, that's
as if somebody had awarded her an extension. Anyway, again, I thought that was funny. And it was also, it felt like, oh, it's not like I'm just playing hooky from my writing life. It's like, oh, this is a reading sabbatical. So it's still
an enriching thing to do for my career and myself.
Yes.
But it's a respite.
Yes. And she wanted to write a historical fiction. So she was reading all about this period that she needed to know about. So it was very targeted. And yet it was also super fun.
Well, it's a great know yourself better question. If you could take a 6-month sabbatical, what would you do with that time?
Yes. Yes, I would love to know people's answers. And also, if some workplaces do offer sabbaticals, not even just academics.
Yes.
Have you taken a sabbatical? What did you do with your sabbatical? And have you taken it? Because I've talked to people who can take a sabbatical, but just never have. So it's sort of like, well, maybe you want to think about that if you're fortunate enough to be in that position.
Yeah, Gretch, someone who was at our Happier in Hollywood retreat was on a sabbatical from work.
Oh, interesting.
Fact.
Oh,
yes.
There you go. There's all sorts of things you could do with that time. So let us know if you do try this at home and how treating yourself like a professor works for you. How do you conceive of that? How do you treat yourself like a professor?
Okay, Gretch, what is our spotlight on a tool this week?
Okay, well, Know Yourself Better is a recurring segment on the podcast. I think knowing ourselves is one of the great challenges of our lives and a key to a happier life. And there is a Know Yourself Better journal for self-reflection, which is sort of the original Know Yourself Better journal. I also have a Know Yourself Better journal for embracing change. That's if you're trying to navigate a transition, like a new school year or a new job. And there's a Know Yourself Better for building connections, which is if you are trying to strengthen your relationships. If you know yourself better, you're just better able to build a happier life. And happier listeners can get 20% off with code HAPPIER20. Just go to happiercast.com/shop.
I can't wait to check them out, Gretch. I have a whole collection of Gretchen Rubin journals.
Oh, you're such a good sister. So Elizabeth, are you feeling happier?
Yes, I'm feeling happier. Thank you to Chuck. Bye, Gretch.
Bye, Elizabeth. The best time to start a happiness project is 20 years ago. The second best time is now.
NFL football season is here, which means when you switch to Verizon, it feels like touchdown. Because you get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube on us when you buy an eligible 5G phone on select unlimited plans, which means you can watch every out-of-market game every Sunday afternoon. And it's all on us. Now that's the Verizon way to kick off the NFL football season right. Switch and get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube on us, only with Verizon.